All right, so welcome to my first Meet the Director and the Major session. I put this together because I have noticed that I have some upperclassmen who were not as informed about this major and the requirements thereof and the process to become a dietitian as well as I thought. And I know I several times had mentioned these things in front of them, and sometimes when somebody is not receptive to some information, thinks information doesn't necessarily apply to them, things tend to kind of go in one ear and out the other. I'll worry about that at a later time, or that doesn't apply to me, that sort of thing. And then I have them sitting in my NFS 3025 class, which is usually a class that's taken junior or senior year. And students are dumbfounded by some of the information that I actually give them. And for some, they have doubts about why they were in this major to begin with and had wished that somebody had told them some more stuff when they were a little bit earlier in the program. So what I decided to do is to create this, which I plan to do every fall for newer students to the program so that I can review some of the basic information about the program, about the major, about me, about the process to become a dietitian, answer questions that you might have about that so that there are no gray areas. So we can clear up any gray area that you might have, clear up any confusion that you might have about things. In the case that if you decide this isn't the major for you, we have time to get you in a place where you would like to be. And if you are uncertain if this major is for you right now, maybe after this talk, you will officially decide that you are in the right place. So I put on this first slide, my name, my title. I'm Dr. Erin Mckinley. I have a PhD in health education and health promotion. I am a registered and licensed dietitian here in the state of Louisiana. I'm also a certified lactation counselor and a certified health education specialist. I am an assistant professor and the director of the program here at LSU. My office is located in Knapp Hall, which is on the ag side of campus. So going towards Parker Coliseum, Knapp Hall is on or just off the corner of Highland and South Stadium Drive. And I am upstairs on the second floor in 285. I am there most days. Today I came home a little early, but I'm usually there most days, all day on Friday. If you ever need to come see me, just drop me an email first just to double check that I'm there. If not, we can always pop on a Zoom call if I have availability. I've also included my office number on there, my lsu.edu email. I have two emails. Sometimes you might get emails from this one. Sometimes it might be agcenter at agcenter.lsu.edu. All those emails go to the same email box. I just have two emails because I'm both on the campus side and I also work for the Ag Center. And so my computer is an Ag Center computer in an Ag Center building, so that's why I have that email. Or you can follow me on my social medias, Dr. Erin Mckinley, Instagram, Facebook, all of those things, Twitter, to keep up with me and what I have going on. All right, so a bunch of people just popped in, so I want you guys to sign in and let me know that you attended this talk live, or if you're watching this recording, you can either go to the bit.ly link, so bit.ly/sayhello21, or you can scan that QR code at the bottom of the screen and just fill out a couple of questions to let me know that you attended, or if you watched the recording thereafter. So I'm just going to give you a few seconds just to get that done. And while you're doing that, I will say that I will leave plenty of time for questions after I go through some slides. But if you think of questions in the meantime, please feel free to throw those in the chat. I will answer them as it kind of flows with what I plan to talk about, but I'll definitely address any and all questions you have after I go through a couple of slides. All right, so if you missed this, you can certainly go back to the recording and scan that QR code. All right, so a little bit more about me, the Meet the Director portion of this. So I'm Dr. Erin Mckinley. I was born in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. I grew up splitting my time between Rhode Island and Las Vegas. And I went to Methodist University, which is in Fayetteville, North Carolina, just right off of the Fort Bragg military base. I started my freshman year. 3 weeks after I started college, 9/11 happened, and I was right next to an Army base. So it made for a very interesting 3.5 years that I was in my undergrad, pretty much living with nonstop helicopters going over my head at all times. But when I was going to school, I didn't even know what a dietitian was. So this career was not my first choice. And that's very, very common among people in our program and a lot of people that find the dietetics profession. It isn't or wasn't their first choice or the first thing that they went into. I have my bachelor's of science in both business administration and marketing. After I graduated in 2004, I went back out to Las Vegas and I worked in the casino, gaming, and hospitality industry for over 6 years in different capacities, from finance and counting money to marketing, into operations, into executive level management and gaming operations management. Through that, the 2008 recession hit, and it wasn't the best time to be working in an industry where you are pretty much just taking people's money for fun. And so I wanted to get into an area where I felt like I was helping people a little bit more. And I was going through some personal health issues myself and discovered what a registered dietitian was through actually working with individuals who were practicing nutrition but were not dietitians. I kind of figured out really quickly that what they were doing was probably illegal in some way, and investigated the legit people that talk about nutrition with folks. So that's how I discovered what a dietitian was. And I'm not going to tell the long story, but I discovered that the University of Alabama had an online program for nutrition. I thought that I could just go get a master's degree and poof, I'd become a dietitian. I too did not know the journey that it would take. And whenever I have students who have confusion with this process, I totally understand and am empathetic to that, because I too went through the same thing of not really understanding the process. And so I moved down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, worked on my master's, and went back and took all of the DPD undergrad classes at the same time in order to qualify for their internship. So they have just a coordinated internship for just their students. So internal applicants only qualify for that, and finished all of that up in May of 2013. I did research for my master's, and through that, the two mentor faculty that I was working with noticed that I was quite good at that and asked if I would stay and be a grad assistant and teach nutrition classes in the department and work on my PhD. So I decided to do that for another 4 years. So I graduated with my PhD in August of 2017 and continued to work with the University of Alabama through 2018, but then was hired here at LSU and started here in March of 2018. While I was in school at the University of Alabama, some of the things that I was doing to enhance some of my skills, which I brought in a lot of transferable skills from my previous career. So I worked as a nutrition instructor throughout my PhD, throughout my master's and my PhD. I also worked as a hospitality manager for football, basketball, gymnastics, and softball, running or helping to run their premium facilities. So facilities for guests who have skyboxes and premium areas in the different athletic facilities there on campus, and was able to kind of morph my previous history with hospitality with a little bit of food service and management there of food safety, since all of those outlets had catered events and food. So I was kind of there to back that up as well. So now here at LSU, 3.5 years later, I teach 3 classes throughout the year. Each fall, I teach NFS 3025, which is the Professionalism in Dietetics course that all of you should take around junior year. Some people end up taking it senior year, just with how their schedule comes together. And then in the spring, I teach the community nutrition class, and then I sometimes teach our 4021 seminar class, which all of the seniors except food science students take in our department. And so I also have a research appointment as a tenure track faculty member, and I conduct research in the area of psychology and behaviors related to infant feeding and breastfeeding. So a lot of students that come into the program may have a preconceived idea of what a registered dietitian does. And it usually falls into one of three categories. It's clinical, I'm going to work in a hospital. 2, I'm going to do something that's not in a hospital. Or 3, food service. And it's not uncommon to have these 3 ideas because those are the 3 areas that we focus on when educating you. And they're the 3 main areas that are done in an internship: clinical, community, and food service. A lot of times students are expecting to be told what type of dietitian they're going to become. They don't know, so they expect that that is kind of going to be given by the faculty to you as an idea. I decided to put on these slides that I will also send out with the recording of this video, just some examples of what types of jobs folks are doing as an RD. So what I like to tell students is that you can be any kind of dietitian you want to be. It's really a choose your own adventure. Once you have those credentials after your name, you are allowed to pretty much do whatever you want within your scope of practice of what you're legally allowed to do as a dietitian, but you can take that anywhere. And I tell students to really take something that you love that isn't nutrition related and see if you can morph that into nutrition. If it's through communications or a hobby or something you're really interested, a particular population, we can put the 2 or 3 together with nutrition and dietetics, and you can probably create a job that will bring you income. One of the questions that I do not answer, and some of you might have experienced this if you were ever a high school student in my office with your parents, you usually ask the salary question. I don't answer questions about salary because I cannot predict what the world or the market is going to look like 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the road when you are going into entry-level practice. No one is able to do that. There are different websites you can look at online when you Google dietetic or registered dietitian salary. That will give you kind of a ballpark figure, but sometimes that's not always accurate because you have to remember that's taking the entire United States into consideration, and certain RDs in certain parts of the United States make way more than others because of the cost of living in that area. And so sometimes it's hard to kind of predict that. So if you can get it down to a certain state level, it might give you a better idea of what you might be looking forward to. But I like to tell students to not focus on salary, because if you only have that in mind when you're trying to figure out what type of dietitian you're going to be, you may end up going into an area you actually dislike because you think you're kind of following the money where you think the money is, and it might not be in an area that you necessarily want to practice for the rest of your life. So in the yellow, I've just put different things. Honestly, one day I was actually asked to put a list together because the students were tired of me just saying the same couple of 2 things over and over again. So I put this list together, and it's going to continue on this slide of just the different things that our alumni have done, my friends are doing, some of my old classmates are doing, people in my network are doing. There is no shortage of things that you can take your dietetics degree and your credential and run with. It just really depends on what you like to do, where your interests lie. When you finish all of your school and your supervised practice, what you feel like you have a little bit more expertise in, or if you have a particular knack for. It may come down to where you end up living that might influence where you end up working or what type of industry you end up in, or taking dietetics. It's really choose your own adventure, the world's your oyster, all of those different sayings that we like to say where you can truly make it your own. But one thing I will talk about is that the road to get there looks pretty much the same for all of us. And so this is changing. So some of you might have heard things about the changing of how to become an RD. So for everyone on this call, you are probably graduating after 2023. So this will apply to you. So to become a registered dietitian, you have to obtain a 4-year undergraduate degree and complete a DPD program. You are accomplishing that here at LSU. When you leave us at LSU, you will go to another institution and you will complete a minimum of 1,000-hour dietetic internship or supervised practice program. We use those words interchangeably. And you will complete a master's degree. There are no exceptions to the master's degree requirement. Unless something comes down from those above us saying that they are extending the deadline that students have to do that, as of right now, we don't see that happening. So after January 1st, 2024, everybody has to have a master's degree. If you do not have graduate school in your plan whatsoever, this is a complete deal breaker for you, that is when you need to get in contact with me so that we can maybe figure out something else to do, or we can have a discussion about that so I can maybe explain it a little bit more to where it does not seem as ridiculous as it sounds. So in the past, there are a lot of RDs that don't have master's degrees, and you haven't had to have one up until this point. We have, I say we, from the profession standpoint, have decided to implement this to, one, keep up with all of the other health professions that have now advanced their education. So if you haven't noticed, a lot of professions that used to require master's degrees now require doctorates. So we're just trying to keep up with everybody else and ensuring that those who are going into entry-level practice have advanced education. Going through a graduate program helps you learn how to actually be a better and stronger dietitian. Graduate school really requires you to be what we call in the literature. So that's you're in the evidence-based research documents, really learning more and more how to read those, interpret those, and put those into practice. You bring that with you into your entry-level practice, and that will lead to practicing and being a stronger RD so that you can show everybody on the interdisciplinary team of wherever you end up that you are a vital piece of that team. I have a question in the chat. Is the internship and master's another year or two, or does it depend? It does depend. Every program that has something available is different. They vary from 1 year to 2 years plus. It just depends on where that program is located, what school it is located on. There is a lot of details that go into that. But at the bare minimum, it's going to be another year, year and a half after you leave LSU to finish these requirements and sit for the RD exam. So moving into our program here at LSU. So completing this concentration at LSU in dietetics helps you get those first two steps done. You'll leave us with your 4-year undergraduate degree, and you'll leave with what's called a DPD verification statement. It's almost as important as your diploma. You'll get it in the mail 2 weeks after graduation, and that is what I call your golden ticket to move on to the next step in the process. By the time you graduate and you're walking at graduation senior year, you will already know where you're going to go for your internship and grad school. That will already have taken place a couple of months prior during the spring of your senior year. I'm not going to go over the specifics of that because the entire class that I teach, NFS 3025, covers everything that you need to know. So the main thing I want you to leave this talk with this evening is that I have to go to grad school. And then around junior year, McKinley's going to help me figure out what I'm supposed to do and where I might go. And so hopefully you'll take that around junior year. If you end up taking it senior year, that is totally, totally fine. During your senior year, I also put the seniors through internship boot camp style events in the fall where you have exclusive access to me, meetings, and materials to help you be successful in this application process. I give you everything you need to be successful. I help you put the pieces of the application together. All you need to do is keep your GPA up. Meet me halfway. I can't help you with doing well in the classroom other than encouraging you. If you can keep your grades up, I will help encourage you in other ways and help you be successful in that application process. For most of you is years away. So don't stress about it too much. How successful are we in doing this? And how well am I preparing our students for this? Our internship match rate for the last 2 years has been 100%. The national average is only 70%. So I like to tell my students, and this is something I took from my old boss, Coach Nick Saban at Alabama, you have to trust the process. Trust me, I know what I'm doing, even though it sounds crazy at times, and it can be annoying and a lot of information and overwhelming, and I'm asking you to do a lot of extra stuff outside of the classroom to make yourself a top candidate. It will all work out. You will be successful in this, like I said, if you meet me halfway. We are considered one of the top DPD programs in the country. We don't really have an official ranking system, but that's what people like to tell me, so that's what I keep going with. I don't know if it's based on football or not, but I think we're probably better than football right now. So trust that you are at one of the top programs that's going to successfully get you to the next step, that's going to successfully make you a registered dietitian. Since most of you that are here with us live or will be watching this are probably freshmen, sophomore year, so you have a couple of years to go before you graduate, I highly suggest that you take a look at our website if you haven't already. If you go to bit.ly/LSU Nutrition, that takes you to our non-lsu.edu website that contains a handbook that I would love for y'all to look through. It probably contains about 90% of the answers you need to the questions you might have. It has a ton of information in there. So I always say, look at that first. If you still can't find your answer to a particular question, certainly email me. Our website also has our faculty listing. And so a lot of faculty members you might not actually meet until you have them in class, maybe junior or maybe even senior year. We have one faculty member in particular, no one meets until the very last semester senior year. So if you want to get a peek at who these folks are, there's a listing on that website with our pictures, with a little bit of our information on what we do for research and our background and all of our contact information. Any updates that are made about the program would go on the website. Currently, we do not have an official social media page for our department, so I like to use SNDA's Facebook. We have a front-facing like page that I'll show you the username for at the end of this. So if you follow that page, you can keep up on some of the up-and-coming things happening within the department. While I have you, I want to show y'all, since some of you may be new to this, who your academic advisors are. So yes, I am the director of the dietetics program, but I do not have the scheduling ability to see all 120 of you for advising every semester. So we have it split up among our faculty. And for dietetics students, it is split up by the first letter of your last name. So if you are brand new and haven't been advised yet, you're brand new freshman or brand new transfer student, you may have been advised by me in the past, but going forward, you will meet with the person on this list. So Ms. Milioto handles A through B last names. I handle C through I. Dr. Turi handles J through L. Ms. Dore handles M through Q. Dr. Keenan, R through Z. Any other faculty usually handle food science, NHS, and pre-med, which shouldn't apply to you. So what should happen? So I've put their contact information on here so you have it. What should happen is I would say almost all of these individuals, maybe with the exception of Mrs. Milioto, use Navigate for scheduling for advising. So technically you can come for course advising at any time, but it really makes the most sense to do your course advising for the following semester a couple of weeks before registration opens. So personally, what I like to do is I look at our official list of all the students in our program, I narrow it down to C through I, and I email my students and say, hey, I'm opening up my Navigate, I'm available this date to this date, pick a time that works. If something doesn't work, let me know. And then my students start to schedule. I do mine quite early because my schedule is so busy. Others might do it at the last minute. A lot of folks actually wait until registration starts to start advising their students. So feel free to reach out to whoever your assigned advisor is at any time if you have questions about your courses. If it's about the program, excuse me, in general, the dietetics program or any piece of it that's more from not an individual, at your individual course schedule, you can certainly reach out to me. If it's just a question that can be answered over email, I certainly encourage you to email me first. And then if we really figure out that we need to sit down and have a real discussion, then I would maybe just schedule something with you outside of Navigate, or you can go into Navigate and schedule something. Randomly scheduling with me in Navigate, I'm probably going to email you and ask you what you want. Not to be rude, I just usually like to have a heads up in the case that you have a question that I might need to search for an answer. So I can at least do that in the meantime so that when we actually do meet, I have your answer for you and you don't have to wait any longer for it. All right, so I wanted to share some success tips because a lot of students early in the program tend to ask, what can I be doing in the meantime before I start to apply for internships? What's going to make me successful when it comes time to do that? So like I said before, focus on getting the best grades you can. You do not have to have a 4.0 to be successfully matched to an internship program. I was just telling my juniors and seniors this morning that when I was an intern, one of the top students in our program, GPA higher than all of us, smart as can be, book smart, walked into the hospital and could not figure out how to be a dietitian. And she did everything you could possibly think of wrong, to the point where she was kicked out of the internship because she couldn't do it. And so a high GPA doesn't always equal someone's ability to be a good intern and a good dietitian. On the flip side, I am not saying your 2.0s are going to make it, because they're not. So the magic number, which I hate to give it to you, but the magic number, since graduate school will be required, is 3.0. That number is usually set by the graduate schools of these other programs you might be looking at in the future. That's usually the industry standard, so to speak, as far as a GPA. If they vary from that, so if one requires higher than that, that is at the will of the program, because they want that higher GPA. If a program is willing to go below that, that is their prerogative, because maybe they know that students may have had a hard time with some of those entry-level science classes, chemistries, those kind of difficult classes that get you started in this major, but they're not a true reflection of who you are as a student. So they might be able to look below that a little bit. But you just really need to focus on doing the best that you can. If you haven't already joined, I highly suggest joining the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. That is our professional organization for the profession of nutrition and dietetics. It is required in most of your NFS classes. So some of you might be so brand new, you're not quite in an NFS class yet, but you can join the Academy now as a student. It only costs $58 a year. And through that, when you do get into your NFS classes, you may get discounts on required textbooks, but you'll definitely get access to members only areas of the website that some of us faculty use in our different classes. It also allows you to be eligible for scholarship opportunities, all the different member benefits. You can discover different practice groups in different areas that you might be interested in going into, and you can start to learn about those different areas. There's no shortage of benefits that you would get as a student out of becoming a member. Other things I suggest: join our student organization. I'm going to talk more about it in a second, but it's the Student Nutrition and Dietetics Association, or SNDA for short. Start to get involved on campus. The best way is through SNDA. But getting involved on campus, and it doesn't necessarily only need to be through SNDA. If there are other student orgs on campus, or Greek life, or whatever you like to do, getting involved will help you build different skills that we call transferable skills that you could relate to the dietetics profession. And that's something I help teach you to do through the 3025 class. Also, start volunteering in the local community. And so Baton Rouge community while you're here at LSU, and then your home community when you're home during winter breaks and summer breaks. And I always like to tell folks, any volunteering is good on volunteering, because you're going to be helping people in one way or another. But if it's something that's specific to health, nutrition, the community, food, those sorts of things that are a little bit more directly related to food and nutrition, the better. But if you can't find that, and it's doing some sort of random volunteering that works for you and your schedule with a location that works for you, it's totally fine. You are taking the time out of your day to help somebody else with something, and that is always something that we value in the dietetics profession, because none of us got into this because we don't want to help people. I'm still looking for the one person that's going to tell me their reason for getting into dietetics that has nothing to do with people in some way, shape, or form. I don't encourage this immediately, but at some point you are going to want to obtain some type of paid work. If you can't work for some circumstances outside of your control, I would say bump up your volunteer time and spread that volunteer time out into different organizations with different groups of people. But obtaining paid work, being under the supervision of someone, shows that you are being held accountable to some sort of standard. So in order to get your paycheck, you have to complete the description of your, whatever your job description is. You're being held to that standard. At some point, you might be evaluated on that and given feedback on that. And that's a huge part of supervised practice and being an intern. And the more that you're used to that, to learning how to do something, receiving feedback, evaluating that feedback within yourself, and then making changes, is a big part of being a really good intern. And it shows that you can be held responsible for something enough for someone to pay you for your time. Another thing that you should start doing is networking with local dietitians. And this can be here in town, or this can be wherever you happen to be from. Here in Baton Rouge, we have the Baton Rouge Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is a subdivision district of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics that consists of students, interns, and local dietitians. And I'll talk more about that group on its own slide in just a second. But as you start to expand your network and get to know people, start to arrange opportunities to shadow dietitians in different areas of nutrition. While you're a student, this is the best time to not only start to figure out what you like, it's also a really great time to start to figure out what you don't like. Because the worst thing is to think that you would like an area of dietetics and you bank your whole future and on it. You go to a very specific internship that specializes in that area. You get a very specific grad degree in that area and you absolutely hate it and end up doing something else with your career. We would hate for you to go through that. Years ago, I had a student that was dead set on being a dietitian in a burn unit. So we were in Alabama. UAB in Birmingham has the #1 burn unit in the United States. She was going to do a 4-week rotation there for her internship. She lasted 1 week. She came back and said, well, my name wasn't McKinley at the time, but Dr. McKinley, you can't smell videos. And I was like, yeah, but working in a burn unit is gross. And I told you that. And you said you were okay with it. But the reality of it hit her, the sites, the cells, everything came together. And she was like, I can't do this every day for the rest of my life. I'm so glad I figured this out now before I banked on it and actually applied for a job at this hospital and possibly worked in this unit. So shadowing RDs lets you see what all different types of RDs do so that you can kind of gauge within yourself. Can I see myself doing this? Maybe, no, yes, da da da. At the end of the day, when you go in to do your internship, you're going to have to do clinical and work in a hospital. You're going to have to do community and work with some community organization, and you're going to have to do food service management, which is usually inside a hospital. So those are the 3 things you can't get away with not doing. All the other stuff isn't considered entry level, and so you might not get the chance to actually practice things like pediatrics or oncology or private practice or worksite wellness or all these different areas. You might not get that opportunity in your internship if your internship is just trying to keep it very basic for you. So what better time than now when you're an undergrad student to start to see what these different RDs are doing. Some more information on SNDA. We are the #1 club in the College of Ag as awarded last year for the 2020-2021 school year. If you would like to join, it's open to any student on campus, but we do specialize or kind of narrow things down a little bit more for dietetic students and the students from the different concentrations within the department or in the School of Nutrition and Food Science. And so it only costs $25 a year to be a member. You get a nice little cute logo tote bag to go with that. If you're interested in checking us out before possibly joining, we do have a meeting tomorrow at 4:30. It will be on this same Zoom, or if you're on campus, you can go to the Human Ecology building, which is the building on the corner of the 2 streets. I can't think of the name now. They're right across from Hal Russell and the biology building. It's where the food lab is. Miss Myhand's office is over there. And so we're right there on that corner, diagonally across the street from the Union. And so we meet in the lobby. So if you can't figure out where we are or can't attend in person, join this same Zoom link at 4:30. We have monthly nutrition related speakers. We organize volunteer events as a group. We do different community projects. We also search in the community for organizations that need help, and we'll provide sign-up sheets for different things just to get students exposed to different organizations within the local community. We try to do social events. We have a mentoring program as well, where our juniors and seniors mentor freshmen and sophomore students to give them some more guidance on how to get through this program successfully. And we have a ton more stuff that we do throughout the year that is pretty fun. We have a homecoming event coming up that we'll talk about at the meeting tomorrow. So if you're interested in joining, you can go to bit.ly/SNDA-LSU2021. It's a little form you fill out, and you can pay dues via Venmo if that is easiest. Just to give you some more information about that mentoring program, it is the official peer mentoring program of SNDA, so you have to be a member to interact in that program. But if you're interested, you can sign up as a mentee at bit.ly/21mentee and possibly get paired with a junior or senior, probably from Dietetics. We We'll figure out the pairs for that shortly. So you have until Friday to apply to the program. And on the 7th of October, which is the following week, on that Thursday at 4:30 over in Knapp Hall, where my office is, we're going to have an applicant social so that the mentors and mentees, potential mentors and mentees, can mingle a little bit. And we're going to give the mentees an opportunity to kind of rank any particular students they would want to be matched with, so that we have a little bit more idea of folks who would like to be with certain folks. Last year I just did it randomly. This year we're gonna try to make it a little bit more organized and make a little social event out of that. So if you sign up to be an applicant, eventually this week you'll get sent a meeting invite via Outlook to remind you of that on Thursday, October 7th at 4:30. But the application for mentees stays open through this Friday, October 1st. Just to talk about brand a little bit more, Baton Rouge Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, like I said, it's the local district dietetics group for this area. It encompasses more than East Baton Rouge Parish. It's several parishes within our area. And members are students, current interns, registered dietitians, some are retired, and then we have some nutrition professionals that are not dietitians that are part of it. We try to have monthly speakers where we do Zoom calls for that, and then quarterly networking events. So our first networking event is actually this Wednesday from 5:30 to 7 at Red Stick Social, which is a place over on Government Street. And we're just getting together very informally just to kind of have some appetizers. Those of age can get some cocktails, and you can kind of, in a relaxed setting, meet interns at local programs and also meet some local RDs to start expanding your network. You don't have to be a member to come to this social event, but if you would like to join Brand, for students, it's only $10 a year. And you can go to bit.ly/brand. That is, yeah, brand 2122. That is correct. I am this year's president. This is my second term of being president. So I actually have an opportunity that will open after this school year, or towards the end of this school year, where I will be looking for new interns for Brand. And so I bring in at least 1 to 2 unpaid students to help Brand with their social media and to help with meeting and event management. And this is a great opportunity that students get to be adding to their resume, helps expand their network. You get to know the rest of the Brand board very, very well. So I'll be opening that opportunity. So if you're looking for things, be on the lookout for that in the spring, as both of my current Brand students will be graduating. All right, so one more thing I wanted to talk about is a podcast called Going All In, Get the Edge You Need to Succeed. This is my YouTube podcast that I created last year out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it focuses on the dietetics profession and student success. And one of the big things that I do for episodes is I interview dietetic internship supervised practice directors and allow them to spotlight their program. And so the episodes last anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, where programs go through all of the information about what their program is about, how to apply, how it works, and I ask very detailed questions on exactly what they're looking for in applicants, so that y'all can be watching these, and when you're ready to apply these programs, you know exactly what they want to hear in those personal statements, you know exactly what they want and what they are looking for. This started as just a thing that I'll just do with local programs, and it will just be for LSU students. It's grown. This week I'm filming episode 76, and it's nationwide. We have programs from all across the country with viewers from all over the world that watch this podcast to get information about different programs. At the end of each school year, I do episodes with some of our recent graduates to talk about their experience of going through this program and applying for internships and what they plan to do in the future. And other weeks where I don't have a spotlight session booked, I try to do professional development episodes where I talk about I have some on the do's and don'ts as an undergrad student. I have one that I did with my husband on body art in the workplace. I have a bunch of these professional development episodes, ideas ready to go. I actually have a mentee from one of the national mentoring programs helping me this year with coming up with some more of these professional development episodes. And so if you're wanting to check it out, the YouTube, bit.ly/YouTube Dr. McKinley. And so new episodes are posted every Saturday morning. So it's definitely something to check out if you're curious as to what some of these supervised practice programs, these grad programs with internships, what they look like and how they operate and function. Some episodes have current interns or previous interns that popped on with the directors to give their point of view. This will help to start giving you an idea of what is out there, because there's a lot that's out there. And so for the time being, this podcast will continue until I run out of things to talk about or I run out of programs to interview. But I'm actually in the process of re-interviewing local Louisiana programs to give us updates on what's going on. So the next couple episodes will be much shorter, as they will have already had a full episode and they're just giving us an update for students that are interested in applying this coming year. All right, so as I mentioned, follow us at SNDA at LSU on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I use those social media outlets as a substitute for the fact that we don't have our official social media for our department or for the major. So I tend to post a lot of things on the Instagram and Facebook. Just that's beneficial to any student in our program, even if you choose to not join SNDA. There is a private SNDA Facebook and Instagram for those that are members, but all of this is front facing that you can view at any time. Okay, what kind of study abroad opportunities are there for dietetic students? Okay, so one within the program is through NFS 3114. That's Miss Myhand's food and culture class. And so when things return to normal and we do have study abroad again, because we haven't had it for 2 years, when that goes back to normal, Miss Myhand teaches the class over the May interim, like that summer interim. I think it might be called summer 1 now, I can't remember, but it's that May, that 3 weeks after graduation before summer term officially starts. She teaches that class where the first week you kind of get most of the coursework done, and then the second and third week she would like to go to France. And so we have not had a chance for her to go to France yet, because that was planned for years prior where it didn't work out. And so you finish out the class in France, finishing up any assignments. You're pretty much eating and drinking to your heart's content and learning about the different culture of different, I think you might pop into Germany for a second, since the area of France she wants to go to is right on the border. But it would be going around to different areas and meeting with different individuals, doing cooking classes, all sorts of things related to learning about the food and culture of that area. She used to go to Greece over the winter rim, as I call it, that 3 weeks over winter break. I'm told she doesn't want to go to Greece anymore. I think she wants to switch it up just so she can start to go somewhere different. If she still decides to go to Greece, it would be the winter whenever we go back to normal. I want to say we still don't have study abroad, at least through 2021 at LSU. They will keep us updated via email when travel associated with the university is kind of back to normal. Other than that, students can meet with the study abroad folks for LSU and see if there's any way that you can do an entire semester. It is not impossible to do that. When it comes to the dietetics program, wherever you are in the program, it might actually throw you off graduation a year, depending on when you do it, because wherever you go, you're not going to be able to take nutrition classes that count for our program. Since we are nationally accredited, we have to follow very strict guidelines on what counts as nutrition classes. And so you might take classes that are related to nutrition, but they wouldn't count as ones you actually need for our program. So the later you do it, the more it may or may not mess you up. But if you're interested in doing that, I would say meet with the study abroad folks, do as much homework on your end, and then we can sit down and kind of figure out if it's doable, and if it does put you off, how that's going to look. But I do not know as much about that, since that's Miss Myhand's thing, and we don't really have an official program within our department for students to do that for a semester. I just look at what classes are you going to take, what do they count, what do they count for as in our program, and then kind of guide you from there. But it's a really good question. And you would take 3114 end of junior year or end of senior year. It depends on where it falls in your schedule. Oh, Hannah, that's a good question. Are licenses of registered dietitians specific to states? If you get your education and license in Louisiana, are you only allowed to work in Louisiana? Okay, So education does not matter where you get it, as long as it's Ascend accredited. Same thing with internship and master's degree. Doesn't matter where, as long as it's Ascend accredited. And so have no fear, you won't accidentally go to a program that's not accredited, because it's almost impossible. So our registration is national. So you sit for a national registration exam. Everybody sits for the same exam. Doesn't matter if they went to school and did an internship in Louisiana or California. National exam. So our registration is national. Licensure is specific to states. So wherever you land, so if you land back in Louisiana or you never left, you would become licensed in the state of Louisiana, allowing you to practice just in our state. And so if you want to practice telehealth with individuals in other states, you would actually have to get licensure in those other states. The only state that doesn't have any type of licensure is Arizona. I'd like to say it's the Wild West of nutrition out there. So since there's no licensure there, you would be able to telehealth see folks in Arizona because they have no laws surrounding dietetics. But every other state and territory has its own set of laws that are actually voted on by that state's Senate and House. And so that's how it is here in Louisiana. So we have very strict laws here in Louisiana. We do not put up with people calling themselves dietitians when they're not, or calling themselves nutritionists if they're not. While I said that, someone might ask, what's the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist? Really nothing. So for the longest time, we were just calling ourselves registered dietitians. I choose to call myself that because I don't need another letter after my name. About 2014, I became an RD in 13. In 14, they told us that we could start to call ourselves RDNs if we wanted to. It was up to us. So an RDN is just registered dietitian nutritionist. What the profession did was get legal ownership over the word nutritionist. So here in the state of Louisiana, I am a licensed dietitian nutritionist, which means that people are not allowed to call themselves nutritionists in the state of Louisiana unless they're a dietitian. And what it really means to us is nothing. It's the same thing to us. What we have found over the years in research is that when you go to the general public and you say the word dietitian, they hear the word diet and they automatically think medical or something's wrong with me. But when you say, hi, I'm a nutritionist, it's a much, she's a nutritionist. She tells us what to eat. People are more relaxed around that word. And so we decided to take ownership of both because a lot of dietitians do work with the public outside of clinical settings to where they have to build trust with those individuals. And if calling themselves a nutritionist is what's going to help build trust with that community or that population, that's what we have to do. I personally just like RD, it's a lot easier, but then I had to put the N on my LDN because that's what's required for Louisiana. But when I was licensed in Alabama, I didn't have to put the N on there because state law didn't require it. So that's another differs by states when it comes to how much they want us to use the N or not. All right, I'll give someone a second if they happen to be writing something. But it doesn't look like we have any more questions. But if you think of some, please shoot me an email. I'll go back to the first one that has my email on it. You will also get 1,000,001 emails from me throughout the school year. Anytime I get information about volunteer opportunities, work opportunities, I give that information to SNDA first as a member benefit. They see that good stuff for about 24 hours, and then I send it to the rest of the students in the program. So anytime local folks are looking for help with something, you will see it at some point. I don't hide those things from our students, but I'm also just always sharing information with y'all about whatever is going on. So if you have lingering questions after this call that you think of something or you start talking to some of your classmates, feel free to email me. Feel free to come to the SNDA meeting tomorrow. I will be there in person if you would like to meet me. We'll also have Mrs. Motley there. She's one of our PhD students who also teaches our medical nutrition therapy classes. She will be there in person, and most of our board members will be there in person if you're looking to meet some of the upperclassmen and ask some questions. And then we have the mentoring program that I hope that you will apply for. and get that experience so that one day when you're a junior or senior, you can also be a mentor to the up and coming students. Thank you so much for coming. I'm sure you will want to watch this recording more than once to catch some of the things that I said, but if you need anything, let me know. That is what I am here for. And thank you for coming.